What's something about World War II soldiers that most people today would not survive?
I think I can't do one, but I think there's two.
Okay.
First thing is they grew up in a different time period. In World War II, 98% of the enlistees or draftees were soldiers, so they understood hard work. They understood discipline because parents would, I always had orders. They were all written out for me every morning. And, it was just a different time and a different people. They were self-disciplined, controlled, and I don't see that today in today's world from having taught school for 39 years. And then when you actually worked hard and did chores and stuff, you were in shape. And I don't know if the people here in the United States, the kids or possible enlistees, they want to go in, just from gym class, they're in such bad shape and eat so poorly.
Yeah.
That would really hinder them in basic everything. I don't know if they could physically do it. And I feel bad for them about that. If what I said makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's my one question I really wanted to ask.
And, I might add one other thing. Lloyd told me when the bullets are flying and you're in a foxhole, there's no atheist. And Lloyd had a lot of fellowship. A lot of the people that were in were actually Christians. And I don't believe that's the case nowadays.
Yeah. You can't just say one thing. There's so many things that today I don't feel. Number one, they said the new studies show 77% of young adults or kids are not fit for military duty. I think the new study is 38% of kids are pre-diabetic or diabetic.
I'll bet it's higher now.
And I think they said that's one, and like, what did RFK say the facts were on that? He was just saying the facts on the Joe Rogan show, on this last episode he put out, but he was giving some crazy facts that I was even just astonished by that they were that high.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. There's absolutely so many things that are hindering our youth. One is technology.
Oh, gee. The phones.
I don't know. And we kind of discussed it earlier, but the fact that the tour, there was no such thing as a tour in World War II. You were going from day one, you got drafted and you weren't coming home till you were either, you were just, the war was over, and unless you were being sent back because you were injured or you were there from start to finish. There's no,
I'm going to talk about that. Lloyd and I guess girlfriend got engaged and married, and he didn't see her. And because of the way the 9th Division was and the way they moved, and he was in artillery, made it harder. Yet he didn't talk to her for 3.5 years.
Yeah. It was called Victory Mail. But I guess I want to back up a little bit before we get into Lloyd. Now, can you explain who is Lloyd? Who was he as a man?
I thought that was really, really important to start with, because information you have, the things that I'm going to say are going to make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. He grew up on a farm.
Okay.
They had horses and they traded them in tractors, and that was maybe 3 or 4 years before.
I'm going to adjust your mic for you just to
do that
this way.
Okay.
There you go.
And he was no stranger to hard work.
Okay.
And we were talking about physical fitness. I baled in the summer, and they put up hay with the hay vine, which is 10 times as hard. And we used to run. We only had one car. So it's the same with Lloyd. If you needed something, just ran and got it. Like
Yeah.
it might be 2 miles. It could be, but anyway, the very first day across country, I had to run a 5:45 mile and with no training whatsoever, just working on the farm like Lloyd did, only harder, way harder work.
I believe it.
And you're talking the early 40s and late 30s, like 38, 39. But I ran a 5:45 mile without training.
Wow.
And Lloyd, we got a picture of him standing in the garden and he looks like Superman. And he was in shape.
Oh, I bet.
He was really, really in shape. So I don't know if that answers your question or.
Yes. Well, so where is it? Was he from Ohio?
Okay. I got you. Yeah. He grew up in, Arcadia, Ohio.
Okay.
His dad was, Clyde and his mom was Ada, and they were born again Christians, and they went to First Brethren Church. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, the foundation for everything you do in life.
Absolutely.
So they had Wednesday night Bible study. They had Sunday morning service. Neighbors used to get together and talk on the porch, but they don't do that anymore. And Lloyd loved sports.
Okay. So he
football.
Was,
Now he was 5'8" and weighed 106 pounds.
Okay.
But the team picked him captain his senior year at that size. So that tells you something about it. And he once told me if anybody does something, whatever, he can do it just as good or better.
That's awesome.
And he wasn't afraid of, it is, Yeah. So, let me see. That's about all I can tell you. That just, it was hard work. He met another Christian lady and they got engaged, and her name was Wanda Kunkelman. And they looked at the war as something really important and they had a radio as big as a TV, and they listened every night to the news. And it's just really important. It was a big thing for our country, plus Pearl Harbor that I'll talk about.
Yeah.
And he was just committed to go and do his duty. Now his mom was crying every time he mentioned it.
Now, did he volunteer or was he drafted?
He was drafted. And when he got on the bus, there was 20 plus people there, and he was number 13. Unlucky, everybody was teasing,
Yeah.
But he was drafted, and they were talking about enlisting, but he got drafted before that could happen.
Wow.
So
he had already had it in his mind, though.
Yeah, he wanted to go serve.
He wanted to volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So
everybody did. Now I'm old, okay?
Okay.
But he told me, and my dad told me this too, people that were 4F, and I don't know if they call that now, but they committed suicide because they couldn't serve.
Wow, no way.
No, serious. Really serious. Like patriotism and caring about and loving your country and your flag meant everything. And I'll talk more about Lloyd and that. But there's nowhere he lived or went that he didn't have a flag.
That's awesome.
And once again, I can get into that. So I would call him, for today's terms, very good athlete, very strong, tough as nails, loved Jesus. And if, didn't have fellowship of Christian athletes like, I did, Patrick Henry, but I guarantee he would have been in the huddle and been a leader. And, for the kids to think that highly of him when he was the smallest one. And when he got in the Army right away, he wasn't even there around how long, and he's promoted to corporal.
Wow.
So it's something about his mindset.
Yeah. It sounds like he had an awesome mindset.
Yeah. He,
something that is something that one thing we forget about today. We don't, or I don't feel like a lot of our younger generation has, that mindset of, I can do anything.
Yeah.
Or the determination, or just being resilient.
That's a really good word, resilient.
Yeah.
Because they aren't, and think about it. They went through the Great Depression, World War I, World War II. My grandpa only had $1 to his name.
Wow.
At one time, but they lived on a farm, so they always had food. And my dad's grandparents there were so many hobos and people moving around, and they didn't have food, water to drink, that they would stop at the farm and my grandma would feed them.
Oh, wow.
And then these people are appreciative. And you don't see that with the younger generation.
No.
Now. They're not appreciating when somebody does something for you.
Yeah.
Like part of the reason I'm here today, it's because the only reason we have our freedom and we're not speaking German is because of the military.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
and I'll die honoring them. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, but another thing quick too, you asked me before, what is there something on the farm? You picked up a rifle in the morning and you had it with you during the day. You just used a rifle. You know, back then they didn't have nice barn houses, you know, and what do you say, coops for chickens, and birds spread disease. And, you know, we shot sparrows and starlings, and for entertainment, they go out and shoot target. My dad could light friction matches with a 22 at 10 yards.
Well, you said a really big word there that you said for entertainment.
Yeah.
And
like
you can't,
there was no TV.
You can't get people outside.
You're right.
You know, today that's a huge thing. You can't find, you know, I was about the last week we had that really nice weather.
Yeah.
It was like what, last week? What did I think?
Yeah. 60.
I seen kids coming outside of the basketball and they were going to the park, and I thought, wow, like that was amazing for me, because I'm like, I don't see kids outside playing.
Well, when we weren't working, it was the whole neighborhood, and we were playing baseball or basketball at our house. We played baseball at a guy's house that played for the Minnesota Twins, and we went to Bob Chrisman's and we played football there. And it was just, you didn't watch TV. And if you weren't working, you were with your friends working on sports. That's just the way it was.
Yeah. And I wish we could go back to that. You know,
we need to go back to it.
We need to.
Yeah.
But so we kind of jumped off topic.
No, that's
there,
okay. But
you was beginning to say you had some notes that you wanted to.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'll go through
absolutely.
and you just kind of stop me. I hit everything that I wanted to say about Lloyd. If I was going to emphasize two things, he's a born again Christian that carried his faith all through the war, and you guys being in the military, I think can be hard to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then the second thing is, what would I say? He had a work ethic about him that was second to none. Oh
yeah. I can believe that. I can believe it. That's another thing that I see disappearing.
Yeah.
Is work ethic.
Yeah.
You know,
we need to really pray for our country that way. But, we went over to his place. It was, Father's Day. And, I don't know, we grilled hamburgers and stuff, and we always sat around, and he goes, "Hey, come on." And I thought, wait, we're just getting started. He goes, "Hey, come on." And we got in his Chevy Chevette. You guys probably don't know what it is.
Yeah,
You're kidding me. Well, you had one. Oh, anyway. And we got in the car and we started driving. And then I saw him cry and sob so hard that tears would run down his cheek. It almost seemed like a hose. And I married his daughter, and we had kids and go to basketball games, national anthem, or Keith Greenwood, I think, sings God Bless America.
Mm-hmm.
A song like that, because what he had seen and experienced, that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, he couldn't function. He would just cry and sob because of the friends he lost. They used to call it shell shock back then. Now it's PTSD.
Yeah.
We'd go to fireworks, and boy, when they'd start going off, he was out of there, and he wouldn't, be back. So that's how he was like bawling.
Now, you had mentioned a newspaper article.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what he did is he handed me that newspaper article. You got that? And he told me, why did I live? Why did I live? Why did others die? Why did my friends die? And he was just weeping. And then he gave me this article that you have about his buddy that was in D-Day, because Lloyd was D3 when he went ashore, because they had seen action.
Yeah.
So it's like, these people are what you would call replaceable. We just need bodies. And they sent people on the Normandy invasion, and the ones on the beach, except for maybe some of the officers, saw no action. And it was like throwing them into a grinding mill. Worse, worse. And you guys would know because you've been there.
Well, as I sit here and I really think about it, I'm like, things that soldiers, my initial question I asked.
Yeah.
Trench foot. That's another thing. Fighting in the trenches.
Yeah.
Victory mail.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what victory mail is that was the only means of communication during the World Wars. And it would take sometimes 30 to 90 days.
Yeah, airmail fly over
before, and sometimes even longer before you would get your mail. And I had heard some cases where it had been months before people had heard or received mail.
That's hard. That's hard for, I don't mean this demeaning, for younger people to understand because we've got their phones and all kinds of stuff, and everything is instant nowadays. They want it right now, but it wasn't that way. And I knew a different guy. I could talk all day about him, but, I'll get started and we won't get it done. No. He missed his wife so much. They come up with where he got a really nice pen. He wrote really, really small where the stamp was going to go, where he was, and that he loved her and still trying to serve Jesus. And then he put a stamp over the top of it, and the officials that redacted or whatever you call the mail, never caught it. And she always knew where he was and what was going on and then that was still, like you said, 30 to 90 days behind. Your loved one could die and you not even know it. And it was just a whole different time. And that's why it's so important what we're doing here today. Okay.
And talking on that and Jake, you kind of know, you understand this, like, we call it a blackout.
Mm-hmm.
So
I haven't heard that term.
When an incident happens, all communication gets shut down.
Oh, I know what you
And
mean.
until family's notified, of the incident. So I think the longest I had gone, that I had to really have to go without any outside means of communication, satellite phone, was probably internet, I would say a week and a half, being without communication for about a week and a half until the family's notified of the incident. But could you imagine having to wait? I'm sure back then it'd be telegram, but
no, I don't know of any telegram unless they were still in the U.S. and waiting to ship out.
Hey guys, here's a quick message from one of our affiliates. Do you ever feel there's seasons where you're stretched thin, carrying responsibility, leading conversations, trying to build well, but realize you can't keep pouring out without being intentional about getting refilled? I know a lot of you listening right now have felt that same way. I found that Wellspring Legacy Group isn't just about motivation. It's about alignment through their coaching, consulting, and retreats. They help you slow down, get clear, and make sure the foundation of what you're building is healthy, not just productive. That's why I trust Wellspring Legacy Group. It's not about fixing something broken. It's about staying rooted, restored, and aligned, so the work actually lasts. If this resonates with you, connect with Wellspring Legacy Group. And when you do, use code DailyChop to take that next step forward.
That's something I don't think people could survive that right now. I think it would drive people crazy.
And not putting anybody down, but there was a mental toughness back then. That's why they call them the greatest generation.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe that comes from God. Nobody will ever convince me different. They could just handle stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You mind if I read this real quick?
No, read that. What he told me when he was doing that is he said, they, meaning the ones that are going to die, they call out for their mom, their mothers, at least back then. You have to read it. I can't read it, but that's description of Omaha Beach, 1944.
And I always say, and I truly believe, one video, people always want to say, well, what's it like, right? Well, only in one video that I could ever think that could match real life is probably going to be the one with Tom Hanks in World War II. What was that called? Saving
Private Ryan.
You know, and you hear that. You hear gentlemen in that movie and during certain scenes yelling for their mama or mother.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Yeah.
I knew he died. I knew a guy that was in the first wave, the very first people on Omaha Beach. Okay. And we were talking and I said, should I ask him? Should I ask him? I'll ask him. And we were in a dress up Miss America fair my daughter was competing in. And, I said, so, and I knew all about him being on. I said, so did you see Saving Private Ryan? And he goes, yeah, I saw it. And then's when I made my mistake. And I said, was it really that bad? Remember I talked about Lloyd? He started crying. He was shaking, sobbing. People all around were looking. He had a tux on in the water. He's crying so hard, dripped off his nose, and his shine shoes ran down the side of him, and there was a puddle there. And he was trying to talk, and he couldn't even speak. And he goes, no, worse. And then he just ran into the bathroom. Wow. And I felt so sorry I even asked him. So, you're right. It's the closest one, but it doesn't even.
I always tell people, for me, there was nothing that the United States Army could train me to prepare me for my first experience.
Yeah.
Because even if we all think for an example, everybody thinks when a grenade goes off, there's a huge fireball explosion, right? It looks like a bottle rocket in the middle of the night, just extra loud and a little bit brighter. I mean, am I lying? There's no dramatic thing.
Were your grenades like World War II?
We didn't have, we had the newer ones are the M60s.
Round,
round, not the pineapples.
Gotcha.
Yeah, these ones, the newer ones, so the pineapples were meant to blow upwards,
fragment
vertically, where the new ones they're going to throw it out, shrapnel outwards more than just straight up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I couldn't, it's no matter what you see on Hollywood, no matter what you prep for, I say there's nothing that can prepare you for your first experience ever in combat.
I worked with veterans for 25 years, and that's the exact same thing they told me. Nothing can prepare me.
Nothing. No, because it doesn't happen the way it doesn't. It didn't happen the way I thought it was going to. Nothing was anything similar. And it was just, thank God for seasoned vets, man, because I'm having, as a private, my first experiences with this kind of trauma. I have a sergeant that's like, Martinez, get over here. Like, there's secondary devices come back. I'm distraught. I'm starting to see tunnel vision,
Yeah.
So, it's nothing. It doesn't matter how much you prepare for it. I don't think there's anything that you could do or run through a million times that's going to make you ready to experience it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I sure agree with that.
Yeah. But I do want to read this.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I thank you for being here. So this is kind of what it looks like. Which angle you want me to? Which camera are we on right now? Here we go. So it's kind of
taken right out of the paper, but
yeah, no, we're gonna read this here.
He carried this Lloyd I'm talking about, my father-in-law, carried one of those articles. He bought a bunch of papers that was folded up in his wall and was with him.
Wow.
Kept it with him. I'll let you read it.
Editor's note. The following essays by Doyle Miller, 70 Lakeview, was written on June 6, 1969, 25th anniversary of D-Day, and sealed until the 50th anniversary. Miller waded ashore with the 1st Infantry Division on D-Day, although unscathed during the invasion. He later was wounded. I remember the hours of flashing guns and rockets, bursting bombs, as they lit the sky before dawn. I remember the low black ominous clouds as they scurried across the skyline, giving an array look to daybreak so fitting for the day to come. I remember standing in front of the assault boat and watching the shoreline as objects became distinguishable, giving little hints of the havoc soon to be. I remember turning to look at the 40 or so young men standing like dominoes ready to be toppled. I remember looking at their faces, their eyes showing the look of frightened animals or dead hypnotic stares, knowing that half, at least half, would be dead, gone forever, within the hour. Gee. Wondering why these ones were marked for death. I remember the eyes of the men who had faced death together before, as we silently wished each other luck and prayed that somehow we'd reach the top of the cliff and make the day among the living. To brew a cup of coffee or share a can of hash, yet knowing how small chance. I remember the coldness of the chest deep water as we waded to shore from the boat stuck on a sandbar. I remember the unbelievable noise of the gun shells and screams of the wounded. The smoke, the smell of powder from the guns, and the shells made you choke with each breath. I remember thinking maybe this is really hell. Maybe I'm already dead, and it's brimstone I smell. I remember the terror as men died on the sides, only an arm's length away, the almost unbelievable urge to run, but no place to run. I remember how quickly the beach, as far as you could see, became covered with dead and dying men. Sometimes without an empty spot, they fell across each other. I remember once again, I feel the shame you feel in the presence of the dead, like this was wanting to apologize to your comrade for not being dead with him. I remember the miles of barbed wire that slowed you to a crawl, and always screaming shells. Thinking, my God, maybe we'll all be killed and no one will be left to know how we died. I remember the Ratcliffe techs, Humpy Hyatt, and Willie Wollaston Webb. Also 100 other young men who wanted to live and enjoy life, baseball and Father's Day, but they died in the sand and mud in a place few people had ever heard of, writing history in the sand with their blood, making it a place that at least history students must remember for all time. June 6th, 1944, Omaha Beach, Normandy. France, I remember. Wow.
He carried it with him. Wow. Maybe till he died. Didn't see his water.
Thank you for bringing that. That is,
people don't understand what you guys do.
Yeah.
But people don't understand what it's like at all.
Yeah, no way. No, they surely don't.
We're talking about this in Father's Day and about Lloyd and that car ride and just going back to that, he said, why am I eating this meal Father's Day? Why am I not dead like them? And then after he did die, and I found out that 94% of the men that he went in with didn't come back. I don't know. This made me feel really, really bad, but I got the unit book that's like all their actions and everything. And then Lloyd commanded a 6-gun unit. and there was 5 to 6 people on each howitzer. I think I pronounced that right, howitzer.
Yeah.
And so you're talking around 42 men. And you have to shoot and move. And if you don't, you're all going to be dead because they'll have you zeroed in. You can't stay in the same place. You got to move.
Oh, yeah.
Lloyd backed over one of his men trying to hook up a gun and killed him.
Oh, no.
Lloyd ordered the men that didn't have their guns, because he was in command, loaded to the trucks that already left. He ordered them into like a shell crater. And he was at the top, and round dropped right in there again, killed every one of them.
Jeez.
So then the next time he didn't order them in, and they got hit by a shell. I don't know how many crews he went through, but no one would ever know. But I think he lost probably 1,000 men under his command.
Wow. That would be hard. That would be really hard.
I heard him saying, you put the boy in the army, you can't get the army out of the boy. I don't know how he would have made it without his relationship with Jesus Christ. I really don't. And the vets I talk to today, the very first thing I do, the number one thing is, you gotta, God forgives you that. God will help you and strengthen you to get over, they call it shell shock, but once again, PTSD.
Yeah, it was a huge, I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed because when I came home, I did not know how to cope. And I was a turd. And it took me quite the time to figure out.
Some people never do.
Oh yeah, that's the sad.
And 22, what is it? 22 a day in the United States are committing suicide. I pray every day for them.
Yeah, it's awful, and it is the Lord.
Yeah,
I'm thankful for Natalie, my wife, because she's the one that reintroduced me to the Lord, and I needed that so bad. That's the true only one way I have found peace is through my relationship with him. And so I completely understand. And honestly, I don't even think I could put myself in the shoes of a soldier from World War II. We're talking time difference. War then is nothing compared to war now. Just from the few things we've already talked about.
Yeah.
There's no outside life from war, and you're lucky if you get some mail here and there to bring you anything from the outside world of theater.
Yeah.
Trench foot, being stuck in a trench or in a shelter where you're just constantly just being bombed.
I'm going to talk about that. We got to get to that. I'll tell you exactly how it feels because you went through it.
Yeah.
I was back, they dug foxholes, and that's in the winter when you had to chip the ice.
No
Bastogne. Yeah. And it's got to be enough to cover you up, but
that would be awful. I'm not a cold person. I dislike the cold. Most of my career was in the South, and
that's where God wanted me.
Absolutely. And Iraq, in August, it's Jake shakes his head, man. It's 142.
I had a guy tell me in that gun that's on top of one of the vehicles, you're in that brown thing.
Yeah.
And the sun heats that up, and he said he had a thermometer and it's 150.
Yeah. I always say if you want to know what it's like to sit in a turret of a Humvee in Iraq, turn the heater on the hottest summer day of the year and get a blow dryer and put that blow dryer in your face, and that's the air you get sitting out there. But I mean, you're missing the smell. You can't have
an imagination of Iraq without the smell, because it wouldn't be the same. It's god awful.
Nam was the same. No.
Oh, I believe it.
Same way. How we got, kind of talking about this. So he was going to enlist, like I said, but then he got drafted.
Yeah, you said, yeah.
So the plan was he'll go in for a year, get out, and then he's done with his service. He wouldn't have to maybe be called back. But Wanda and the family come up to Fort Bragg from Ohio, and they came up November 7th, 1941. And he got married on a furlough there.
Okay.
And then she went back home, and he goes, I'll be home in a month. What happened 1 month after November 7th, 1941?
Well, what was next? Was that Pearl? Yeah.
Pearl Harbor
happened next after that.
Everything changed. I do mean everything changed. One guy committed suicide. Well, the first thing showed up, they're in their barracks, the MPs, and they took all furlough papers or whatever you call it. I'm sorry if I don't have some terminology.
No.
And then there were a lot of guys were going home. Discharge papers, they took him. The one guy, when they took his discharge papers, he was distraught. And that night he went out and drowned himself in McFadden's Pond.
Oh,
Fort
wow.
Bragg.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because he wouldn't get home.
No way.
Yeah. Let me see here. What else?
Fort Bragg's pretty good at that, man. There was a lot of time my passes got taken away before deployment at Fort Bragg too. Yeah. They're good for that one.
Kind of want to sob tears and you want to get home. And now Pearl Harbor, that's when things really, really started changing. Basic training was, which he wouldn't have been basic then. Well, I guess he would, because he didn't do his MOS yet or anything.
Yeah,
if that's right.
Yeah.
So they went to this place, and it was wire strung up maybe 2.5 feet high, and barbed wire.
Okay.
And maybe 3 or 4 days, but this is true. They dumped pig guts and a butcher shop that was just filled with rotten flies, maggots, guts.
Oh, man.
And he had an M1 carbine. Everybody else, they had their equipment and live machine gun. Now think about 2.5 feet's not very high. You make them, you stand, you're dead.
Yeah.
And they were firing live ammunition, and they called through that. I don't even know how many times. And Lloyd got sick, and he was on a farm and did butchering and everything, and had been around it. And they just is this what war is going to be? And
wow.
That's what they did. And they would go out on these marches. And I don't know what you guys did, but they were doing 12-mile marches with 40-pound packs, and his 1903 weighed 10 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
They stepped up the training to get ready for the war big time.
No, they still, we call it now, where they're the live fire shooting. We call that Nick at Night. But they definitely don't have the pig guts over it anymore. So that would have been
maggots,
very intense.
Maggots, which if you've been, I'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
So, they're going to go. And he ended up going to England. And I can't even tell you how many vets World War II, which there's not many left now, would tell me when they sailed out past the Statue of Liberty, guess what they thought?
What's that?
Will I ever see this beloved country again? And then look how many people are putting America down and saying bad things. You turn the TV on.
Yeah.
They have no understanding. I'm not putting them down. They just don't know what it took, like clear back since Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Freedom isn't free, but you know what? And if you do get it, it's really tough to keep.
Yeah.
And I'm really concerned about what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Right now, in our country. They practiced amphibious landings over and over before that. And then he's on a boat and Lloyd goes to England and they do amphibious landing in England. Then they get back on the boat and they head home and they go, what do we do? Come over here for maneuvers?
Right.
So 3 days out, they turned the boat around and they headed for the Strait of Gibraltar. And he was in the very first battle of World War II, Operation Torch.
Wow.
And he was green, had never seen combat, and they were fighting Rommel and his tanks in Algiers.
Jeez.
And thank God where they went ashore, it was quiet. The amphibious landing wasn't bad, but to the east, I guess it was not good.
I believe it. Yeah. We started off in Africa, correct? Correct.
That was the very first battle. He was in the room. You ever watch the movie Patton? Watch the movie Patton, and he gives them a speech, and I'm not going to use the words he did, but he said, your job isn't to die for your country. Your job is to make that blank, 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 blank guy die for his country.
Yeah.
And he was in the third row, 4th seat.
Wow.
And they got over there and turned around and they go through the Strait of Gibraltar. And the first thing is Stuka dive bombers. And there's a ship, Thomas Paine, maybe it was, or something.
Okay.
Got hit. And I don't know how many men died. They did get a rescue boat there.
Wow.
And then right about dusk, I think it was, they had these Higgin boats, which those are the ones if you're watching TV, the end drops down or whatever, and you run and
yeah.
And you go ashore, and it was quiet for him. And he didn't say a whole lot about that because you knew and you really don't know what's going on, like what you said, private. But he had 2 memories from that battle. And then I'm going to switch to another one. But what the 2 memories were is his friend was with him and they were running, and he went around to some boulder or something. And when he looked back to see where his buddy was, because he was looking out for him, a round hit him right here.
Oh my God.
Right here. And the last thing he had in his mind was a picture of his jaw just swinging. And he figured he was dead and he had to keep on going. But then years later, he went to buy a car in Falls Story, Ohio. And he looked up and he couldn't believe it. Guess who it was?
It was him.
They fixed that jaw.
No way.
And you guys will probably say this too and agree. The medic's the most important person on the team.
Oh, absolutely.
And the care they give you.
Oh, Doc, man, don't.
But you
don't
guys had
him.
like helicopters, and I could talk about that, but we did that some another time. But
well, I mean, even with that, you only have a golden hour regardless.
Yeah,
so that makes it, to me. Think about that. And back in 1942,
so on a Jeep top.
On a Jeep, you have a golden hour to get to the doctors, to have surgery, to get yourself, well, at least to get stabilized.
And then just they show it, there's a part in Saving Private Ryan where they're doing triage, and really what they're doing is marking which ones we're not going to give treatment. And then these ones we're going to give treatment because they have a possibility of lasting survival, and we're going to put them in order.
And people don't get that. That still happens today. We still got a triage today.
Yeah.
And what
can you imagine if you're the wounded one laying there
and you hear that you're triaging? Oh my gosh, bro. That would be, yeah. I mean, everything about World War II, World War I would be, even Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been to Iraq. You've been cross seas. But at the same time, if I really think and put myself in their shoes, I don't know, man. I think World War I, II, and Vietnam, Korean War would be way worse. I would rather be in the Iraq and Afghanistan war than I would any of them three.
Real quick, and also go to something else, but in Vietnam, I talked to Vietnam veterans, and there was one guy who was put in the bag. He wasn't dead.
No way.
And then he come to and was moving. He was zipped in a bag, and he just went berserk and was kicking. Then they saw what the deal was, and they got him out. And he actually, I was told that he come out of it and he lived.
Jeez.
Can you imagine?
Could you imagine
being zipped in a bag? And they didn't. They're just hurrying. They're doing their best.
Yeah.
Maybe under fire, And, that happened.
Well, I mean, I can imagine that. You know how it is, Jake. When we land in country, it's like it doesn't matter whose bag it is. Just hurry up, grab it. And I mean, they're screaming at you to get off the bird.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't even imagine then.
Well, he's talking about imagine. Okay, listen to this. Here's the other thing that he could never get out of his mind. It was cold there, actually. Even though I forget what the date was. November 8th, 1992.
Wow, November. That's right before my son's birthday.
Okay, well, anyway, they were going over mountain passes. I think it was in Tunisia, and there was pretty sheer cliffs, on the road, and the roads weren't that wide, but they had no choice. That's the way they had to go.
Yeah.
Tanks and 6-wheel drive trucks, which I've drove one, were going on that road, and there was ice and snow. And if a guy would just jerk it the least little bit, there weren't any kind of guardrails or anything. And he saw multiple tanks and 6-wheel drive trucks with troops.
Jeez.
Go off the side and just tumble to their death. Tumble to their death.
Yeah, that would be some. Ain't no Chalk 11, Chalk 12 flying in. Man, that would be awful.
He could never get, Lloyd could not ever get that out of his mind.
I believe it.
So.
Now, how long was he in Africa for?
I didn't have the date on that, but, and I can't even tell you because I tried to track that stuff down because he did, Sicily and, from Tunisia, I think he went to Sicily. And then I think he was in Italy. I know he was in 5 amphibious landings.
Oh,
with a gun, just because you're an artilleryman, you're a rifleman first.
Well, that's what basic training's for. Cause you're always going to have your basic rifle skills. You're an infantryman,
mm-hmm.
right? That's what basic is for, to teach you basic infantry skills. And then, so that's when you sign up, you're essentially can always be used for infantry.
So see, they had seen that action that we're talking about. And I don't know if it's when we started, but they didn't, I don't want to use the word waste, but that's what it was. They didn't use veteran troops because they needed them to fight the Germans. So Lloyd was on Utah Beach day 3. He come ashore because they were saving him, but he must have been where he could see Omaha. I don't quite understand it because I'll tell you some stuff. So for the beach landings, he saw Higgin boats were lined up 13 deep.
Wow.
The first 7, no one lived. Machine gun, every one. The first 7 boats with somewhere between probably 40 and 50 people and the gear or whatever. The first 7, no one lived.
Good grief.
And then apparently the machine gun barrel got hot and they had to switch it out. And then that's how they got to shore.
And you'd imagine, so that's a whole battalion.
Yeah.
That's a whole battalion that got knocked out. You think of that. That's each boat's a platoon, 40 guys.
Peleliu, a division, 1,000 men, right?
Yeah.
I knew one guy of the 13 that were left. The 13 that were left out of a division that walked off in their own power.
13
out of 1,000.
Jeez.
And not even a day. I figured up Omaha Beach, an American died, if you go by the timetable, every 8 seconds. Take the casualties, divide, when they started the hours. Every 8 seconds, American died in Omaha Beach.
Wow.
Lloyd talked about Omaha Beach wasn't going good at first. He was there. It's almost worse. Like, you're a unit. The Army molds you into a fighting combat team. And, you have your own personal one, but you're brothers with everybody, right?
Yeah.
They were getting mowed down like I described. And this guy on the destroyer was a captain. I think something went to the officer. They talked, but they wanted permission to take the destroyer in closer and blow those German guns to bit. And they wouldn't give them permission. They said, no, stand down.
Wow.
The captain and the officer got together and said, to hell with them. And I don't mean a bad word.
Yeah.
But they ran the destroyer aground and got close enough. And they turned the destroyer's guns on that and just blew them to bits. And then we started getting people on the ground.
I was going to say that it was probably needed.
It was needed. A friend of mine, I actually dinner at his house, was a tank commander, and he was in one of the swimming tanks, and they were in the Higgins boat, probably one to a boat, and there was like 6 tanks. Okay. And he was in the back. I don't know why, but when they jumped the boats off, when they dumped the boats off, they floundered, dumped the tanks off the boat. They sunk basically, and everybody died. And he saw what was happening, and he climbed out of the tank and went up to the guy on the boat, and he took his 45 and he put it right up to his head and said, "You're taking us to the beach, all the way to the beach." And so there were still only 2 tanks left out of 6. And they were the first 2 tanks on Omaha Beach. And I was watching History Channel, and they couldn't figure out how those 2 tanks got on.
Here's a quick break from our sponsors, R&R Handyman Service. From small repairs to home improvements, no job is too small. If you need reliable, honest work done right the first time, call R&R Handyman Service at 419-770-0242. That's 419-770-0242. R&R Handyman Service, getting it done right for you.
Yeah, we definitely needed them Navy ships to take them out, and them gunners out.
Yeah, they did. And then he saw the Rangers too.
And the Rangers were just getting formed back in that day.
Yeah, but they were shooting these ropes with hooks and going up, Lloyd thought maybe 100-foot cliffs. Germans were throwing grenades down. And I don't know how many of them started, but if I remember right, there's only like 24 that actually lived when they got there. And then the guns were moved, and they had to go in country farther to get there and take them. And then the Germans come back, attacked them after they drove them off, and then a bunch of them died, and there was hardly any left. You know, it's just.
And you brought this. So we're starting to move into Italy here.
No. Okay. We finished Operation Torch when, like the trucks and stuff, that was them leaving. And then I don't know that he was in Italy. It appears that he was, but I know he was in Sicily. I know Tunisia.
Okay.
And then what happened is they shipped him back to England.
Wow.
Okay.
So how long
they were there? I was trying to figure that out last night, but near as I can tell, maybe, let's see, 42. He was probably there maybe a year.
Okay.
Something like that.
And they got a little break to England, you said?
They got no break.
Oh, no break.
They went there, but they still trained. And then you know what he did when they weren't training?
What's that?
England is, I'm talking about Port Calais. You know, that's where the Germans thought they were going to go.
Okay.
He worked every day for weeks, and, you know, his crew or combat team or whatever, blowing up rubber tanks, trucks, that little German car they had, Jeeps, all just fake. From the air, it looked like real equipment, you know, just row after row.
So there was a PSYOP little deal they had going on.
Yeah, it was all rubber. It was blown up with air.
Isn't that crazy?
But, you know, we would have never made it on Omaha Beach because they thought it was going to be there, and they had all the forces there. And then they had to move them. They couldn't move them as quick because Hitler was sleeping. And they didn't want to wake him up. That's what I was told. Whether I know or not, I don't know. So let me think. Oh, I forgot something you got to know.
Okay.
When Operation Torch, you go over the side of the boat, there's ropes.
Okay.
Well, when he was going and he has all that gear on him, he misstepped and kind of fell and caught himself with his leg, and he had a hernia.
Oh my God.
So the whole time, you aren't going to leave your buddies, right?
Yeah.
So that whole time he stayed there in terrific pain. But when they got back, they put him in a field, wouldn't be a field hospital, it was a hospital in Britain, where I don't know. But the Germans were bombing them so heavy, they would have lights out.
Yeah.
So he went in there and he got surgery for the hernia, and they put him out with ether, which I'm told by soldiers makes you so sick to your stomach. You feel like you're dying when you come out of it, you know?
Jeez.
Ether. You know what ether is? Starting engines?
Starting fluid.
Okay. So what he didn't know is they were in dark out or whatever because German were bombing.
Yeah.
And there was a German pilot that got shot down, and he was talking German, and there was all kinds of sounds going off for like air raid bombs. And there was men in the hospital, and they had serious surgeries, and they're you didn't really have pain relievers like today. They were moaning. So Lloyd comes to, and there wasn't anybody around because of the air raid. I don't know where people, what they were doing, but there was nobody around. His whole lower part was on fire. He had a fever. He heard a German pilot speaking, and then he heard him moan, and then he heard other people moaning, and it was dark. Well, they shut the power off. It was dark, and it's the scaredest he's ever been. That's what he told me. He thought he died and went to hell.
Oh my God. I couldn't even
He just
imagine
was
that.
screaming. Because think about Germans, and everybody's, and he's on fire. They talk about, we don't want anybody to go to hell. That's why we tell them about Jesus Christ. And he's on fire, and he's burning, and then he's half out of it because of the ether, and he comes to in that, and he just started crying and goes, he's a Christian. He goes, I'm a hell. The awfulness of it. And then a nurse come over and grabbed him and just hugged him and said, no, it's an air raid. That's a German pilot. And I can't imagine what that felt like.
I couldn't imagine.
Can you imagine? That happened.
I think the most scariest words anyone could ever hear would be, "Depart from me, for I never knew you."
Yeah, that's what Jesus said. That Matthew 7:21, I think.
Yeah, and
never knew you.
And so to think of that, to wake up and think, come out of surgery, and anybody, I've not really had to experience a major surgery where I felt loopy or anything like that. So thank God, But can you imagine just coming from a war zone, knowing you're injured, you went to go have surgery, but you probably don't, coming out of it, you don't remember you had surgery.
You don't remember really anything. All he knew is he was burning. It was dark. He heard, when is a German going to be with Americans sobbing?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, no light. It's a blackout. That's a blackout. There is no light.
Yeah.
Because they can see that. Lloyd told me they wore bed sheets and cut a hole and put their head over in their helmet, some kind of white covering. And especially at night, because a German sniper would see you light a cigarette.
Yeah.
Just the littlest light.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're dead.
That's, in Iraq, we couldn't have lights. It was lights out.
So because of the snipers, and he said, he didn't know it was a blackout because of that reason. And just real something else. That's, if you're watching this video and just telling you, because I know what veterans told me and I know what it can be. We never know when we're going to die. And Jesus paid for our sins and mistakes. And with him as your savior, it says, if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart he was raised from the dead, you'll be saved. Time goes fast. I'm 72 talking to these really nice young guys right here. And time goes really, really fast. So if you haven't done that,
absolutely,
that's the most important decision you'll ever make in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
We never know. And, being honest, one of the hardest things to experience
And from hearing so far of Lloyd's story, he has experienced a lot of this already. You don't ever want to see any of your friends get hurt.
Right. You would sooner die.
But in the back of your mind, in that moment, the one thought that you think is, God, I'm glad it wasn't me. It's an honest thought. That's an honest thought that I've had.
I taught FC at Patrick Henry, you know that. It's a huddle leader. And this is real quick, just to add on. And the guy was in the 82nd Airborne, and his mom called me because he was going on this big mission. Somehow she knew it. I guess they're not supposed to. But she said, can you call him? He thinks if you kill someone in war, you're going to go to hell. That's murder. So she gave me his number. I dialed it. I mean, right away. And it sounded like he's in some kind of vehicle moving. And he asked me that same question. I said, no, in Romans in chapter 13, it talks about, we're to obey our government. And the government is sending you to a war. And you're going there to save what America stands for and who we are. Yeah. And I said, I told him, God will not hold you guilty. As a matter of fact, he wants you to be the best soldier you can possibly be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he just goes, thanks a lot. And clicking. But that's where it's at, like all of life, because it goes so fast that you have him, Jesus, as your Lord and Savior. And I didn't mean to add that, but that actually happened. How many times I talk to soldiers about that.
Yeah. I believe it.
I'm going to go to the breakout at St. Louis, if that's okay.
Yeah.
That's when I saw your post. And, most people don't understand, we got a beachhead and then we moved inward, but they have these hedgerows. And from what I'm understanding, there was a 5-mile line that the Germans were defending, and a 1/4 mile of it was just thick with Germans. And I don't know where that quarter line was, but then there was an area about the size of a football field, maybe 2 football fields, was the command post and all that. And everybody was there, and they controlled everything that was kind of going on.
Yeah.
And all they had to do, they knew the distance. I think it was normally 150 yards between each hedgerow, and a hedgerow is anywhere. I got that picture there.
Yeah.
Is 6 to 10 feet wide at the bottom. And then there's a drainage ditch for water. And then they're about, maybe up to 10 or 12 feet high. What's it say on there? Like how high does it say they are?
Let's see. It says 4 to 8 foot high. You got a ditch that is 1 to 2 foot deep. And the actual hedge would be about 6 to 10 foot wide.
Okay. So, and you know what they did? That kept animals and stuff back then, because everybody had animals. So they planted it with briars. You know how thick briars.
Yeah.
You've been hunting already.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Thick with briars. And what the Americans would do, if they couldn't go through the natural gaps where the farmers did, because they wouldn't even get through the gap, and the tank would be blown to bits, and the soldiers would be wiped down with machine gun fire. And you can't, in some areas, you can't climb over it. And you can't even see through it, let alone go through it. And if you're hacking your way, the Germans know right where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And, I tried to find an exact number for this, but they were saying upwards of 10,000 casualties, and between 1,000 and 2,000 people killed immediately trying to get through.
Jeez.
And tanks would go to where it's only 4 feet high, and they would try to push through. But when they would do that, the tank would go up in front and would expose the belly. And then the Germans had something like a bazooka, and they just blow that tank up.
Yeah, right.
So it was just, we could not, we were having men die like you can't imagine. And, so Lloyd was with a group of men that got an idea, because wasn't using art. Well, how do you do that in hedgerows? But anyway, they welded a blade on to the front of the tank.
Okay.
So now what they could do that wouldn't go up, plow right through it. And, that changed things. Now a bunch of tanks are getting them welded on, but even with that, we weren't making the progress that we wanted to make.
Right.
Okay. And, they called in a bomb strike. It was, Operation Cobra.
Okay.
And it was, if I remember right, June 24th and 25th, and Lloyd was right there.
Wow.
Somewhere in Europe, Lloyd got into a home with somebody that lived there, a French person, and they give him a puppy.
Really?
And he called it Skippy.
Okay.
And he carried him in his backpack, whatever that was. And some of the soldiers told the officer above him, which I don't know, and he thought he was going to be in huge trouble, court-martial. But he liked it, and they went to the commander, whatever that means, and he liked it. And he says, Skippy's going to be our mascot.
Okay.
And previously, the part I left out is he got one of his legs shot off, so he was wounded.
The dog did?
Yeah.
No way.
So Lloyd's like a celebrity. Everybody in the 9th Division knows him because he stood up front whenever the whole combat team got together,
Uh-huh.
you know. So Lloyd, he knew everybody. They'd come say, "Hey, nice dog," you know how it is. You've been,
Yeah.
you know, your war buddies and stuff, your brothers. And, so they're going to have this bombing run with 2,000 to 3,000 bombers. Lloyd told me
Jeez.
2,000, but since I read it was more than that. So there's people that were up on the front line, our line, and there's that area where nobody's at, and then the German line. So they had them move back and dig in.
Oh, wow.
But see, Lloyd wasn't a part of that until a major friend of his come to him. And the major said, "Hey, do you want to go see a really good show? We're going to go up and dig in, and we just got these smoke bombs we have to light, and the wind's blowing the right way, and it'll blow towards the Germans." And that's what they did because they didn't have the technology as today. And the bombs would come in and see where the smoke was blowing, and that was a double check. So there was a major, which isn't usually up on the line, and some captains, pretty high-ranking officers, because it wasn't really like a combat thing. It was like, you're going to see the Germans get blown to bits.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was an aviation operation.
So they were there, and everybody dug the foxholes and stuff. And the planes are going to be coming any time. So they lit, I don't know if you call it smoke bombs or what it is, but they were going to smoke for a really long while, because how long does it take 2,000 planes to go through?
Right.
Okay. So the planes are dropping where the smoke blows, and they're all sitting there laughing, having a good time and talk, friends, like we're away from the battle. Guess what happened?
It didn't go so as planned.
No, it didn't. Guess what happened? The wind switched direction 180 degrees.
Oh, no.
The smoke, they set them out in front of them towards the Germans. The wind changed. The smoke is blowing right over top of them. And all of a sudden, all that joy and, hey, we're going to see the Germans get theirs.
Oh, man.
Wasn't joy anymore. And then how do you turn them around? Those like B-17s and all that.
Yeah.
And the smoke's already there, and you can hear the engines. And there were bombs dropping all around them. They saw, like, they were just not battle buddies. They were friends because, he was like the celebrity, and the officers, and that was like a ticket. And he wouldn't, he'd be humble. He would hate me saying this, but, the bombs were dropping, just seeing all his buddies, because all the holes weren't really close together, because one will get everybody.
Yeah.
And, just getting blown to bits. The major, they asked him, got killed.
Jeez.
Blown to bits is a better word. And he was in a foxhole. The guy's name was Johnny Lamb from Kentucky. And I actually called him before Lloyd died, and they got to talk to each other.
Really?
But anyway, he was praying. No atheists in foxholes. He was praying. Johnny Lamb was a Christian too. And then Lloyd was a Christian, and he was praying and praying and praying. And Lord, we want to live.
Yeah.
And he, Lloyd, think about it. He fought Rommel. They had those tanks, Tiger tanks. He's been, what, 5 amphibious landings, all
Jeez.
this. And here's what he told me, exact words. He said, I never knew what terror was until those bombs were dropping around me. Then I knew and understood what terror.
I completely believe that.
So he's praying. And remember I said we started out with this Christian faith and all that. Now, how hard, we pray in our rooms, but what it says, the fervent, effectual prayer of a righteous man avails much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But we just sit there on the sofa and maybe we're drinking coffee or whatever and praying to God. These guys were on their knees or as close as they could get to it, as low in their foxholes as they could be, and just screaming out to God and crying to him, saying, my buddies, look at God. Okay. He heard an audible voice, and he never backed down from it when people laughed at him. And when he told him, and he didn't tell many people, he told me, he heard the audible voice of God say, you will survive this war.
Wow.
And at that moment, God gave him a vision of his mom in the room in their house back home. And she was in her chair and she was praying.
Wow. Just interceding for him.
And then, it was over. And then, the bombs and everything. And then they stopped and it was like night in the daytime. The atmosphere was so full of dust and stuff. The sun didn't shine, and it didn't shine for 2 days.
Wow.
And everybody is stunned around that area because, when they changed the direction which they're going, bombs must have still been dropping because the other soldiers I told you about that had dug in,
Yeah.
A lot of them got killed. And I think I read there's around 300 were killed friendly fire.
Wow.
And, but the next day, they must have stayed in the foxholes all night. I don't even know if they brought food to eat, but he went out, walked up, and a lot of them were doing this, afterwards. Remember I told you it was a real thick area where the Germans had their command post.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and he's told me, I don't know how many times, he thought the area was a little bit bigger than a football field. And he wore a size 8 shoe. He walked in that area. There wasn't one place. Well, think about it. Not one place in that area that he could put his foot down in a bare spot and not step on a body part.
Jeez. And he
gets sick and stuff again. Imagine that. I can't even begin. Here's how bad it was. They started, when it was over, they used 6-wheel drive troop trucks and they picked up the Germans, and they thought the Germans' casualties were, I don't know, maybe somewhere between 8 to 10,000 in that bombing all along the line. And then other places I read 3. So I don't know what it was, but Lloyd told me the troop trucks were stacked German bodies, some of them not complete, dead.
Yeah.
And they were hauling them away to get rid of them because the smell was so strong and so putrid. And he said truck after truck after truck, just unbelievable, the dead bodies. It was so bad. The P-40s, he saw P-40s fly over. Okay. Yeah. That's the one with the tiger painted on it. And story got out when they were flying over. I don't know what their height was, but they're up there.
Yeah.
They could smell it.
Wow.
From the cockpit in the plane.
Jeez. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
You read stories even from Normandy, and they say that the water, there was just so much bloodshed.
It was red.
It was red.
That guy that I told you about?
Yeah.
The water was red, and there's many guys floating in the water as there were, like you read, they fell over top of each other.
Yeah.
And then, we sat at home, we watched stuff on TV, and It used to be they watched war stuff and you wanted to know the news and what's going on. You pray for your country. But now, they just say, well, see, nobody dies anymore. Like John Wayne, I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
He's still on TV, but he died how many years ago? And we as Americans been conditioned through the TV and other things that, death isn't really as bad as it is. Death is bad. You go to the veterans I talk to that have seen action. They are humble. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't look at you, which is odd for an older person because they always talk and stuff. And then when they do, you can see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why this documentary is really, really good. But the most important thing is, we're all going to come someday. We're not going to be here. Is the Lord your Savior?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Good works won't get you there. You can be a Sunday school teacher. You can volunteer at church. None of that. He'll say, just like what you said, I never knew you.
Yeah. And
the word there is gnosko, and it means to have a relationship, to be your battle buddy. Because we're in a war as Christians, things are going on, in life and trying to live the Christian life. Well, Jesus is not only my commander. That's not even high enough word. He's in control of my whole life. He orders our steps. And then you have a relationship because you read the Bible and pray.
Yeah.
And that's what that's talking about. And to not go through like Lloyd thought he was in hell, or what he just saw there, that it never left him. He died with it,
Yeah.
God enabled him to handle it. But can you imagine not as the body part in that big area?
Jeez. Yeah. His reading his article, he said there was some spots that there was no room for a body to lay. They had to lay on top of each other.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. So I think, let's see, breakout. He said, we just said, hey, we got an idea. I'm gonna weld the blade on. He said the Germans, there's no way that would have happened. They would have had to talk to their commander there. Then he had to go talk to somebody. Then he'd have to go talk to somebody. Then they would ask the Fuhrer.
Yeah.
They would ask the Fuhrer. And you know how long that would take?
Oh, I believe it.
Oh, here's something else not many people know about World War II. Lloyd told me. It just come to my mind, so I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
The Germans dropped pamphlets before battles.
Yep.
Except the Battle of the Bulge, because that was a surprise. But they dropped pamphlets. And basically what they're saying is there is no God.
Wow.
Pamphlets. They dropped them. There is no God. You need to, what do you call that? Desert. Or not fight this battle.
Yeah.
And then they said, it ended with, your God will not save. Look around.
So they try to do a little psyop there.
Yeah.
As well.
You don't hear that very often. That's the only time I ever heard it that they did that Lloyd told me.
Wow. There's definitely a lot of, nowadays we don't have it, but there used to be a division, a psyop division in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And many people are wondering, like, well, what is that for? Well, that's a great example of what it was used for, is different ways that you could throw the enemy off without having to physically do something. Fear, to instill fear without any of your physical presence.
Yeah. That's funny because that's also the next thing we got to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Then St. Lo. 2 things away.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah. Am I looking that way enough?
Well, I kind of saw you this way.
There's a camera there. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Show them that handgun right there. First, before I get into what I was going to say, how about if that pistol he got there, Lloyd was really proud of that.
Yeah, his P-38.
And that was during the Hurricane Forest campaign. And what happened was he was patrolling fire breaks.
Really?
And they come to a cabin and went up and knocked on the door. They surrounded it, and 4 Germans come out, and they had white flags. And then Lloyd thought that was it. And then they kept pointing to the cabin. And they didn't want to say anything because if this captain of the SS got loose, they would probably be dead because they were ratting him out.
Really?
Yeah. So then he comes out, and they had told him later that guy is ruthless. And then that's when we found out about, or I wasn't there, but he found out about what they use the guns for in the embed SS is if they're not fighting hard enough, they just shoot them in the back, and then that motivates the other ones right away.
Jeez.
Is what
I
they
bet
did.
so.
So, anyway, Lloyd took that gun and these things right here from him because he was senior man. And he spoke Veterans Day, the very first one, at Patrick Henry. And then he brought this stuff over and gave it to me. He said, always go and talk about what really happened.
Wow, this, and that's really interesting. And they said that he was a ruthless man that carried these.
Ruthless. It was
Wow.
ruthless was the word. Yeah.
Jeez. You know, this is quite something for me myself to be able to hold these relics in history. And as myself, just to imagine where Lloyd must have been during all this, thinking about it, and where the gentleman who carried this. History, man. This is somebody had this. Somebody used this. This was someone's.
His name's inscribed right on here. And I had some German transfer students from Germany, and we tried to locate his family. You can just, if you want, that pulls out of there. But I can't read German. And then see how it's chromed?
Yeah. It's actually sharp.
It's very sharp.
Yeah. 96th Infantry Regiment.
Yeah, look at that sign.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not familiar with German.
Me either, but they said that was the guy's name, and they knew German and stuff, and we had the internet, you know, and we'd eat lunch together, and we tried to look them up. I was actually thinking about giving that back to the family, but we couldn't find them.
Really? Wow. This is amazing, and it's everything is just so well taken care of. For the age.
Yeah.
It's still, you can still read the numbers printed on it, the serial numbers. This is amazing. Jeez. And you just, to even fathom this, something that has lived through a world war or was on a soldier in a world war.
Yeah. Most stuff's pretty rough.
Yeah. This is amazing stuff to see. This is stuff that, I never imagined I would even be able to see. So to see some real bayonets and weapons used during World War II, you even got
That's what Lloyd carried. He was senior officer of the I don't even know. I wasn't in the military, so I don't know. But it was his artillery team, and it was around 42 men, something like that. Take or give.
December 19th, 1905 of February, the 1911.
They fired so fast with howitzers. The Germans that they captured, they asked them if they had automatic howitzers or how could they fire that fast.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were training really good.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I really appreciate you bringing these things. And you have some binoculars. Well, before I move to the binoculars,
you
said this was Russian?
Yeah. You never start out. Germany was fighting a 2-war front. Us in the West and Britain and France. and some of the other countries that had been overrun, the Blitzkrieg. And then on the other side, they were fighting the Russians, who were our allies at that time. And the Battle of Stalingrad, Russians didn't even have enough equipment, so they give a rifle and bullets to one guy, and the other two ran behind him. And when he died, that next guy picked the rifle.
No way.
Go until he died. Then the third guy pick it up, and that's just the way it was. And that was brutal. You go read about it. It was this time we're talking about was the coldest winter almost ever recorded in that area, Europe. And Lloyd told me he thought it was averaging around 20 below zero. And when the Battle of the Bulge, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, came, they had so much snow.
Jeez.
It was below and you couldn't see.
I couldn't imagine. I wouldn't want to be there.
I don't know. So that's why I'm so, like yourself, a veteran. I so want to honor you and all I do and say. And I think Saving Private Ryan, we talked about that. And when he dies, he says this, earn this. Earn this. And he was talking about all his men dying, that us people that aren't soldiers, what we need to do is by the way we live our lives and love this country, that will pay back for the sacrifice that was willingly laid down for us. Like my dad was Special Forces, and he said, you go in the classroom, I want you to get all A's. If you're going somewhere, I want you to go early, outwork everybody, and stay late.
Yeah.
That's the attitude.
That's a good attitude to have. We don't have that at all nowadays.
Well, Bob Chrisman, the guy that told me about the tank story, he held the gun to head. He was, he saw that and everything. He hired me to work for him, and he had a 6-wheel drive World War II Army truck that he put a backfiller on and he used to ditch. And he hired me to ditch, but I never did that. I forked tile over.
Okay.
So he come and grabbed me one day and says, you got to drive this. And I go, what? Now think about this. It's 6-wheel drive. There's no power steering. That thing's mounted on front that probably weighs 1,000 pounds or more, maybe a ton. And there's no air conditioning. You open the front window and eat all that dust. You got 2 motors that you have, you do your throttle for the truck going, and then you got the motor on the back for the thing that spins to fill the ditches. The truck had 2 transmissions. You had to shift them a certain way, in certain order in it. And then there was a transmission on the back, the engine on the back, that you picked the speed for the rototiller. And I'm looking at, and it's 6-wheel drive. It's just like you see in the movies. And I'm looking at this and I said, I can't drive. I'm a freshman in high school. I can't drive this. I just can't do this. And he got me by the arm and kind of shook me and goes, now you listen here. There isn't anything that you can't do or you can't drive or fly.
Man.
He said, then he looked right at me and he goes, you just got to want to bad enough.
That's the truth.
That's the truth of our soldiers in the military and why we are what we are today. They wanted to bad enough.
Absolutely. And I take that for everything in life.
Yep.
If we want to change something or we want something, it's possible.
Well, with God, all things are possible.
All things are possible.
Scripture and Ohio's model.
Yeah. We got to, if we want it and we believe in it, we can make it happen.
Especially with the Lord. But okay, let me tell you about the Battle of the Bulge. I don't even need to look at this. So they had white sheets, like I said before, and their helmets were covered. And that's even artillery people, because remember you were talking people that were, I can't remember what you called them, but they tried to, like when he blew up the rubber tanks and stuff like that, to lie or a false idea. Yeah. The Germans had that kind of people. I don't know what they were called, but it was in World War II. And there were Germans that came from America because the homeland called them, and they knew a lot of English and could speak it. And they were dropped in with given dead uniform, people that had died for the United States. And they went around, and before the Battle of the Bulge, they were turning all the roadsides. They were killing people in, what should I say, opportune positions that would mess up our flow to try to come back and retaliate.
Yeah.
And they were doing anything they could possibly do to mess up us responding to the Battle of the Bulge, their attack.
Jeez.
And at the same time, it's like 20 below zero. And the wind's
Oh, my
blowing
God.
and the snow's, it's just blowing snow like crazy. So we had no air support. And then we
Jeez.
had these guys. Okay. So there's a map there. I don't know if you want to hold it up. That one map that shows the bulge, the Battle of the Bulge is that one right there. Lloyd was right here, Malmedy. That's where the Germans had too many American prisoners.
Okay.
And they let them get out to stretch their legs. At least that's what they said. And they folded the flaps back on their trucks, and there was machine guns, and they murdered every single one of them. No, Lloyd he saw it.
Whoa.
Because they had, and I don't know if we'll get to it, but they had orders after that. They have to get to the bridge of Remagen.
Okay.
Okay. But,
I think you had that one here, didn't you?
yeah,
Bridge.
it gets right here.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. But, so it's Battle of the Bulge. They're up on the front lines. Well, we'll need that in a little bit.
Okay.
Was up on the front lines, and then they were called back for rest and relaxation and refitting and all that because they had been on the front lines.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
39th Combat Team, and they put the 99th Division there. They're all new people. They have never seen combat up on the front lines, and Lloyd knew one of them, but he never saw him again. And he said, "Hey, how is it?" And Lloyd goes, "Oh, it's easy, man. There's nothing here." Well, you can look at the map. They're right where the bulge started.
Jeez.
So when it started, they went through those guys like a hot knife through cold butter.
Wow.
And Lloyd said they come back crying, didn't even have a weapon with them, just running.
Jeez.
And they were white as ghosts because there were so many tanks and there were so many German soldiers that come at them. Someone didn't even fire. They just turned and ran.
Wow.
So then, you got to plug that hole, and you see how big it got there in the map. So before Lloyd knew it, he was in artillery. He was back 2 or 3 miles. The tanks were there. And I don't know how many artillery groups were there, but within Lloyd's, 42 of them, where, you're fighting the enemy 1 to 3 miles away with artillery or whatever.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're 100 or 50 yards from you. Lloyd told me he could see the whites of their eyes. So, he had a sidearm or pistol. Somehow, he got a rifle and stuff. And he said it's the first time he ever shot anybody that close like that amount of people come. It's just, everybody got killed except him and one other man.
Wow.
And they saw it was a lost cause. So they took off running for the woods. And I don't know how many went, but only 2 made it. So everybody under his command got wiped out.
Could you imagine being in France and then just having to run and no leadership right now?
None.
You're just, and there's no air support.
No, you can't. No air support
There's
at all.
And there's not the common radios that we have today.
Right.
We're going to just send a relay message back and get orders.
Yeah.
You're out there on your own and figure it out.
Yeah. What's that word they use? Adapt.
Oh, you better really well adapt.
You gotta adapt. Well, here's what happened. Now I'm going to look at, so I want them to see me when I say this. So they, ran into the woods, and it's about dusk, and there's German soldiers all around them. They don't see them in the woods, but they're going to go through there and check, and, tanks. So they got the idea they'll just wait the night out. Then they'll maybe try to escape early in the morning. So the first guy, Lloyd's friend, was on his combat team, said, I'll take first watch and you go get some rest and then we'll flip. So Lloyd had a big heavy wool coat and he had an M1 carbine. He put that inside his coat and there was a drift there real deep, like maybe, 5-6 feet. And he just jumped, kind of took steps and jumped and he landed. So the drift covered him up. Yeah. Why did he do that?
It's a good cover. Well, it's not, it's good concealment.
Yeah. He would have froze to death.
Oh yeah. Keep him warm, I bet.
It kept him warm. And the guns froze up and then you'd have to pee on them.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
You'd have to pee on them because the guns were froze up if you didn't maintain it right, or if you put too heavy oil on it. But anyway, so he's in there and he sleeps. He doesn't know how long he's asleep, but he kind of like gets up and kind of digs his way out and all that. And he sees his buddy still there watching guard. And he comes up and he taps him on the shoulder. And he goes, hey, whatever. I can't remember his name now. He tapped him on the shoulder and he didn't move. And then he kind of grabbed his shoulder and it was hard. And he still didn't speak. He froze to death.
No way.
So out of that whole combat team, Lloyd was the only one that lived.
Oh my God. Now, did Xavier tell you how he got back with the new unit or how he got found new what did that look like?
It's a combat team and there was 2 of them with infantry and then tanks attached. Lloyd's was the 29th artillery and he was attached to the 39th combat team, which was infantry. And they went everywhere together. Then there was another one and they were maybe back in reserve. I don't know, because as soon as they shut this down, then they went to the bridge of Remagen. And, I'll tell you about that. And, I don't know what their numbers for sure were way down because a lot of Americans, Hitler did a great job with that Battle of the Bulge. And a lot of Americans died to turn it around. Plus then they had Germans in American uniforms that were, so what happened was Lloyd said they come down the chain of command that, no one passes through a checkpoint.
Yeah.
And if they know the password, so what? They might have threatened to kill somebody to get the password. So they would say, hey, who's the pitcher for the Dodgers? Who won the World Series?
Yeah.
There was this movie, Gone in the Wind. Who was the actor, the guy in there? And it's stuff that every U.S. soldier would know, but they wouldn't know it and they'd have them right away. And that's how they called a lot of them.
I bet. Yeah. Having them, yeah. At the time, who's the, of course, you would know as a soldier.
Yeah.
And especially as men, of course we know baseball and major players.
Yeah.
But thinking of that as a German or, a different soldier, they wouldn't have a clue.
You're right. They wouldn't. But, so to answer your question, they had to get to Remagen because that every other bridge was down over the Rhine to get to Germany. So if they got that bridge, that's going to save, who knows? They got to get that pontoon bridge. You probably seen pictures of that. And it would probably be a month until they'd ever cross that again. So they're on the move going really, really hard.
And then to be
the Germans probably, what happened was they ran out of fuel.
Oh.
They couldn't move the tanks.
They
got stuck. And Bastogne did it, and if you want to see a story, 101st Airborne, my son-in-law was in the 101st Airborne, and what they did at Bastogne was unbelievable. Yeah. And they were surrounded by like 10 times the number, and they held, and that stopped the Battle of the Bulge, was what they did there. The commander was an American guy, and the Germans sent him a note. We're going to annihilate you. We are going to wipe you off the face of the earth. And do you know the note he sent back?
No.
Okay. Now you got to go back to the late 30s and early 40s. He just put nuts. Nuts. Like back then, that was a word like, I grew up, people were saying, cool, man, cool.
Yeah.
And back then, if they'd tell you to do something you didn't want to do, you would say nuts.
Okay. Yeah. It's
So
like
the
you're nuts.
Germans get this message and it's nuts. What is this? Somebody translate, man.
Yeah.
But that bought them time.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it bought them time. And then they held, and then, oh man. Band of Brothers is a good movie.
Oh, it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorites.
But so then they go to the Bridge of Remagen and they capture that. Now I'm going to zoom you forward
Okay.
to about 1998. Lloyd died in 2003. Now I'll zoom you forward to 2000.
Okay.
So it's just like, whoop. Okay, it's the year 2000. And I come in and we're eating supper, and Lloyd calls me and says, hey, you got to come over tonight. You got to come over. Whatever you do, you got to come over. And I said, why? And he said, there's this movie on about History Channel about Battle of the Bulge, and you got to see it. So myself and Kelly was gone, and my next two oldest sons went over there. You would not have believed it.
Really?
I think it healed Lloyd because it was like, I don't even know how to say it. It was like he was revisiting.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the bridge at Remagen. He goes, oh, look at this. I know where we are. In just a little bit, you're going to see this sign, and it is going to say, you're crossing the Remagen Bridge courtesy of the 9th Division. And it wasn't even 20 seconds on that film.
And it was there.
It was there.
Wow.
And he would say, that's a Panzer, just the sound without even seeing it. That was a Panzer. That's a Tiger.
Wow. So he knew he'd been
He
around
knew
a
his
lot.
stuff. He really knew his stuff.
Man.
You know? Well,
And
you have to, or he would never survive.
You know, them are the things, because people nowadays don't have the opportunity to sit and hear noises. That is something I think is needed for survival in general.
Yeah.
You need to hear your surrounding,
Yeah.
because, for instance, like you were saying, it's a blackout fob.
Yeah.
You know, saying it still goes today.
Yeah.
So I need to know what sounds I'm hearing, because then I can determine, first off, how far away it is.
Yeah.
Give me a kind of a judge of distance. 2, is it a bird? What is it? What am I hearing? Is it something threatening? Does it sound like someone's footsteps? Does it sound like a wheeled vehicle? Does it sound like a regular vehicle? Them things are super important. And even today, take it out of a war zone.
Yeah.
People get hit from crossing the road because
you're
they
right.
don't pay attention.
They're doing this.
Yes.
Or they're doing this.
Yeah. You miss the sound because you're distracted with something. It's very important to know what you're surrounding, what you're hearing.
No, you know what? It's not only that. I read the Band of Brothers book, and there was a guy that was their sniper, and he was maybe one of the best ever at that time. It's Shifty Powers.
Okay.
And, you know, they're stationed in this area, and it's a watch. It's an overwatch. And, it would have been the captain come around. I can't think of his name now because I knew it. Can't think of his name now. But anyway, Shifty goes, hey, there's a tree there that wasn't there yesterday. And the guy goes, what? Where is it? And he goes, over there. And he says, there's no trees there. And he goes, no, beyond. And the guy goes, that's over a mile away. And he started laughing. How can you be sure that? And he goes, no, I know that tree wasn't there yesterday. And they said, we better check it out. They moved in these big guns, 88s, and they were setting them up, and they were going to blow them to bits. And there's trees around them, but there's a difference between a tree and a gun barrel.
Yeah.
And he saw that at that distance, and he knew it wasn't there yesterday. And by him talking to the officers, it saved the whole company. It was a company. They'd have been shelled.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They still do that today.
And a modern day thing they do is IEDs.
Yeah.
And so there was a story from a unit where they had seen two guys carrying. So on the highway, they got the barriers in between the median, two guys carrying one of them. That's almost impossible. It's impossible for you and I to go out and pick up a big solid concrete median off the highway and carry it.
Mm-hmm.
But they were noticing that this was not there yesterday.
Yeah.
Two guys had moved it and set it there, and they had took the Great Stuff foam.
Yeah.
And they had spray foamed a bomb, an IED, and shaped it into one of them, spray painted it, and then had moved it and set it in the area. And they were like, that wasn't there yesterday. We'll come to find out it was a bomb.
Yeah.
And so that's crazy to know that's been a technique since World War II.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just unbelievable.
Isn't it?
That's why my prayer list every day is our veterans and our current military. We're in a war right now.
Yeah.
And wisdom for our president and the government,
Absolutely. This one.
It's really, really a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Trying to think I don't want to make sure we get through everything. Oh, I didn't finish the bridge at Remagen.
Yeah. Let's finish it.
So, they would have set up artillery, which Lloyd was, back about 2 miles. And then the infantry, which Lloyd says he gives all credit to, went in and they took the bridge. And then they had to hold it. And the way you can hold it is establish, like on the ocean, it's a beachhead.
Okay.
So I forget what something head. So they had to cross the bridge, move out so many yards, and then set up a perimeter to protect the bridge from Germans coming from that way.
Right.
Okay. So you're talking really battle hardened guys that know what's going on,
Yeah.
Well, since 1942. And now it's 1945. So, they get there, they put that sign up that I talked about.
Yeah.
But, they get there and, they're just, the guys back by the bridge, we're having a really nice time, laughing and stuff. And right now it's kind of a dead time. What do you call that? When you attack them and then they attack you to try to take it back. Counterattack?
Counterattack.
Okay. Counterattack hadn't come yet.
Mm-hmm.
The counterattack hadn't come yet. So Lloyd had just crossed the bridge and that's would have been with the 6-wheel drive trucks and the guns. And the infantry was still around the bridge. And they were probably half across, something like that.
Okay.
And they look over in the distance and they see airplanes coming. So they think, oh man, airplanes. And, they've seen them before. They've been dive bombed by German Stukas.
Yeah.
And, so they, in their mind, we got this much time.
Right.
So they were crossing, they wanted to get everybody across the bridge and stuff. But they were just walking and messing around, having a really nice time. And I don't even know how many people were on the bridge, but there was hundreds,
Yeah.
And, then there was some that maybe weren't quite across, but anyway, these planes, they saw them and then all of a sudden, boom, the planes are right on them and there's no engine noise. Can you imagine? All planes have gasoline engines and you can hear the plane roaring, especially when they're dive bombing and stuff. And there's no noise and the plane's there. What is this? And all of a sudden the planes are on them in time that was just like it was magic or something. And here it was the first time Hitler used jets.
The jets.
Yeah. They come in. Yeah, right there. With a jet. They have never seen a jet. They didn't know what it was. They couldn't hear it till it was past them.
Yeah.
You know how many of his friends got killed?
Oh my God.
And they were dropping bombs and they had the machine guns. And then they're half scared because what is this?
Yeah.
What can it do?
New technology.
We didn't have any idea what it was.
No way to counterattack it.
Yeah, no way.
Jeez. That would be frightening.
Yeah, a bunch of them just got killed.
And how old was Lloyd again?
He was 22 when he went in, and that would have been in 41.
So man,
No, it would have been December of 40. So now it's 45. He would have been about 27 years old.
Jeez, could you imagine before you were 30 experiencing all that? And I think I had experienced some stuff. Good grief.
Well, he's not even, there's even worse coming.
Good night.
And to him, it was those that, and you would understand this, I try to, your friends that aren't with you. Your friends that aren't with you.
Mm-hmm.
With the help of Lord Jesus Christ as a Savior, he could work through it,
Yeah.
but the memories don't go away.
No.
The memories just didn't go away. And to the day he died, he took them with him.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, it's tough.
Can you imagine that?
No. Not
Like,
at
let's
all, not
suppose,
really.
like, were there drones when you were over there in Iraq?
We had drones, but they were not using drones like they are today in, Ukraine and the Middle East now. I could not.
Can you imagine one of them flying up and just boom, and your buddies are all dead?
No, and that's literally how it is. And these drones now are quick, they're quiet, they're fast, and
that's how these guys, they were just shot. And then afterwards they set up in position to establish, like what do you call it? A platform to keep them from reattacking. It's not a beachhead, but it's like it.
Yeah.
So then they're talking about that. And it's just like, what on earth is Hitler going to win the war?
Jeez, that's a scary thought to have.
This is unbelievable.
Yes. And you had talked about Lloyd at one point being the only survivor.
Yeah.
Could you imagine how I couldn't fathom how scared I would have
And
felt.
then, now through this, he's back with people that he probably doesn't even know.
No time to train with.
Maybe
yeah.
from basic or something like that.
Well,
and he's commanding them.
And that's so hard. Even, how do you even, of course, you go to a new unit and you adapt pretty fast.
Okay.
Right. You go through basic and you get used to things, and it's easy to adapt. You get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But to try to adapt after experiencing all the trauma, that would be harder. And just to think about how much more the relationships might be stressed, because you have to think, especially as a commander or a leader, I can't go in there with the attitude as like, I don't want to get to know you, because that's how naturally a human can feel that way after experiencing all the death and trauma of that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to come in here and make new friends. So then to go in there and still try to have a softened side to you,
and show your men you care.
Right. To show someone that you are there for them still, and that you're not so hardened, that they could still see, hey, there's still care in life in this. Whereas a person, it's easy to shut down. It's easy to lose, to detach from your emotions, to detach from how you feel at the time, to your window of, I'll say your window of availability for people gets real short.
Well, if you're not available to watch your 360, so to say, and if you're not focusing, just like you said, listening, I talked about that tree and that, you'll be gone.
Oh, quick.
It'll just be
quick.
You'll be dead.
You have to pay so much attention.
And then you can't, that's like Lloyd, when his best friend died, his jaw was it's like that. He couldn't, he had to keep going. He'd be dead, or the guys with him would be dead. And he just thought he was laying there and died. You can't stop. You have to keep moving.
Yeah. You had spoken with me on an event that he had lived through in and I want to show the picture here real quick.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to take a picture of this and I'll upload it, but it's kind of hard to see on the frame. But this picture here is a chilling picture. It's very chilling because
it's Nordhausen, the death camp.
Nordhausen. And it was a death camp, and these people here, Lloyd said some of them were not even dead.
Hey, can I steal that picture for a second?
No, you're good.
Okay, you can see those bodies in there. They come in, anytime you come into something, there's like a certain formation and stuff you got. And Lloyd was up in front, and he's normally artillery, but he's a rifleman first. So he gets there and he sees this bulldozer moving, and then he gets closer. There's a trench. He told me is about the length of a football field.
Good God. That's a big
They dug
trench.
it with a bulldozer, and I don't know if you can't take stuff, you better not listen to this, but there was a pile of bodies, some dead, some still alive. And that picture shows just bones, like there's no muscles or whatever. And, it was Nordhausen death camp, and the pile was in the camp, and they just took the bulldozer, put the blade down and pushed people just like you would push dirt into a hole, and they're alive.
Jeez.
Some of them are still alive and they're doing it. Can you imagine that person? And Lloyd saw him. He shot him. The guy on the bulldozer, and they, and they got to keep moving, but they at least could radio and get help and stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever help that would be. I don't know. I suppose some kind of medics and stuff, but they had to kind of keep moving from. And I think that was before Remagen, and they had to get to that bridge.
Good God.
So they let them out and stuff, but they had to leave them. And then help was coming.
Jeez. And all this time, once again, there's no deployment cycles.
Right. He's over there 3.5 years in combat.
Straight.
Hey, I'll talk about that next if you want.
Yeah.
To keep moving. So I know what happened. So, the war's over, and I may not know this, but they had a point system to determine how people went home. So, if you were wounded, that counted points, and just certain things counted point. Well, Lloyd was there 3.5 years. Everything was checked on him.
Jeez.
So
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine being in war for 3.5 years? Hey guys, thanks for tapping in and watching this week's episode. Could you guys imagine being deployed for 3 years? Now, of course, we're back at war again, unfortunately. And so I think about our troops. Of course, me being a veteran, a combat veteran, my deployments were definitely not 3 years at one time. And so could you imagine that, being in a World War I or II and being drafted and being gone for 3 years straight? Lloyd had an amazing story, and I'm so grateful for him and his family, and for Mr. Jim Creager for coming and sharing his story with the rest of us to leave us with a bit of history.